Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It, and Netflix, out of nowhere to me, I had no idea this was coming, but Netflix has released the ninth installment in the American Pie series. American Pie Presents Girls Rules. And I'll give you my thoughts and review right after the jump. Real quick, if you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. So if you would have told me that the very first American Pie came out when I was in my senior year of high school, and it subsequently has kind of, the original series anyway, has sort of followed along with me in parts of my life. If you would have told me that that first film in '99 would have spawned a just under $1 billion franchise and had nine films in its franchise, I would have called you a liar and I would have taken that bet. But here we are. Four theatrical films and five now direct to video or streaming spin offs, if you will. American Pie has sort of gone the way of the National Lampoons, and now they've done these American Pie Presents. But the American Pie Presents films have all sort of, in quality one way or the other, have all sort of attached itself in one way or another to the original film, either by the Stifler name or by Eugene Levy returning as Jim's dad. So we've had the Naked Mile, and I've seen them all. I've seen every single one of these. So I was shocked when I saw this pop up on the top 10 Netflix list. So I was like, oh no, I have to watch this. I've watched every single one of these. Let's see what the girls are up to, and that's what they've been pushing this as. This is the girls' turn. This is the girls' turn it back to do a sex comedy, if you will, and it has some mixed results. I think this is good. We're now in a world where these type of films are coming out, where we have movies like Booksmart or Blockers, which deal with teen sex and teen comedies and teen romance and teen girls growing up. I think this is great to have. They should also have that, and we should be treating them. Now, I know there were some people who had issues with the girls in Booksmart speaking that way or acting that way or being just like the guys. I don't. I think the turnabout's fair play, and everybody. That's how teenagers are, and that's how teenagers should grow up and do grow up. And girls are no different. Should be treated no differently than boys, especially when it comes to them growing up and their sexuality and their love life. So here we are. The American Pie presents Girls Rules. The first act of this movie is really rough for me. Um, the opening sequence for all American Pies are typically our lead character, whomever it is, getting into some type of situation or some type of sexual situation that is embarrassing to them and embarrassing to some of the others around, and that sort of plays a part throughout the rest of the film. It's sort of the jump off of the leaping, the launch pad for the film. And this one is no different. There's an opening sequence that for me just is not funny. I don't know if it's because I'm a guy. Something just didn't connect humor wise with me for the opening sequence, and it just made those first 20 to 25 minutes of this movie very difficult to get through. I just didn't think any of the humor worked. Then they go on to introduce these four female characters who, three of them I think are decent, are okay. There's something there to them that I'm not completely turned off. The character of Kayla, I just did not like, and that never really changed from start to finish of the film. It's just a character that was grating, and I just didn't latch onto or take to in any form or the other. The other three, I was like, oh, there's something there, but it just something was off for the first 25 to 26 minutes of it. What happens with this movie, though? They introduce Sarah Rue, and Sarah Rue just opens this film up for me, and her relationship she has with as a principal and as a neighbor and as the sexual awakening that she has and the expression that she has with our lead character's father. All of that works, and it makes everything else sort of just play off and start falling into better places. And also, as the movie goes along, the girls stop being caricatures of themselves to an extent, some more than others. But I think they just start finding their placement and playing them a little bit better, and it all starts to work out a lot more for me. I think that Sucks though when you have a film that's only an hour and 26 minutes. When the first 26 minutes don't work, you're already kind of playing behind the eight ball. That said, I think this back half of this film does a much better job, and it becomes charming and heartwarming, and uh, the relationships of the girls and the bond that they have, and how they are fighting for one person, one pack, one guy, but then they start getting out of the way when they realize that the other person wants them. That hit me. That feels good. Specifically, out of all the girls, Stephanie Stifler, which I would imagine based on timeline wise, she would have to be a cousin, not a sister to Steve. Stephanie Stifler works better than I think any Stifler has worked in this entire franchise as being a human. Like, yes, she has this bravado and this aggressiveness that comes off, but it just feels more natural and more honest. And so she's the one person who's not playing a caricature and has layers. And I think she does a better job in this film of encompassing what the Stifler brand has done and what those names has done than any of the male Stiflers have done before. And I could watch the young lady playing Stephanie Stifler all day. She was great. She killed it and made this film, the back half of this film, much more bearable. Here's the problem that I have. As good as some of the girls have done, and as great as Sarah Rue has done, and I don't exactly know why Danny Trejo is here, other than he is friends with the director. Here's the problem. In terms of sex comedies, this movie is very tame. It's extremely tame, and I don't know why that is. It has the R rating. You're on streaming. You can sort of do whatever you want to do. Um, but it never puts the girls in some of the super dire and precarious positions that the originals have put the guys through, either that being sexually or the hijinks that they get into, like Stifler eating shit. Like there's just never the ante is never upped. It just feels very warmed over. Spitting for the pies, but it feels very warmed over and like we've done this before, and some of that is because we've had 8 films before this, so not everything's going to be original, but it just feels like there's a layer of newness that is not there. There's no rawness that something like Blockers has, or there's no honesty or relationship building that Booksmart has. It becomes sort of this warmed over, not quite on the level some of the other American Pies. And I think if you're doing a one-to-one saying, all right, girls are getting their turns to go at bat, they need to be as raunchy and as in your face as the males were. The biggest thing that's just odd to me is that an American Pie film has absolutely no nudity in it at all, male or female. And I didn't really expect, because the girls are the leads in this, I didn't really expect any female nudity, because if you're turning the books and saying, all right, cool, you guys had your chance, you were showing naked women and nudity all over the place, then I would imagine that the girls, if they were at bat, then you would show male nudity or male a penis somewhere in there. You'd be like, all right, this is probably going to happen in this, because that's what the yin and the yang is for that. And there's nothing. And I know the director said that their Universal specifically did take a shot out, that at the end there was a penis shot. I feel like something needed. There was no bite to this film, and I think for it to have an American Pie movie, if you're giving the girls their chance at bat, you got to give it all the way through. I also think that it's a load of shit if you say that with all of these films, it's perfectly fine to put women on blast and have them be naked in an R rating, but the R rating doesn't still account for if a guy is doing the same thing. There's a huge double standard there that this film doesn't deal with, and it's a whole different subject. But I just think this for this particular movie, if you're going to call yourself American Pie and you're going to put the girls at the forefront, they need to have that male gaze be there, just like the female gaze was for all of us. That's just me. All that said, American Pie presents Girls Rules in comparison to all the other films, the Naked Mile and I believe the Book of Love or something like that. This is somewhere in the middle. This does, and it's probably better than one of the theatrical films are on par. For me, the biggest issue is This film sticks the landing. It nails it. It just has a very, very, very rough takeoff, and I know a lot of people will probably have checked out before you actually get to the sweet spot or the good part of this film. I would return to see these girls again, um, if it was offered, but if it never happened again, or if they gave me something that was only about Stephanie Stifler, I'd be good with that too. So on my scale of once is enough, play it again, Sam, or give me a time stone so I never have to think about this again. Once is enough. I hardly ever go back to any of the spin-off American Pie films, but I do on occasion go back to the American Pie original theatrical run, because I think those films, for me, happen at a time in my life where I can sort of use them as bookmarks as to where I was, whereas the theatrical, I mean, the spin-offs don't have that effect on me and are much lesser comedies overall than the theatrical ones. But I'm glad that the girls got their shot. But I think if you're dealing with female sex comedies now, Blockers and Booksmart are just better done films, with a little bit more bite and edge to them. But those are my thoughts. Have you seen American Pie Presents Girls Rules? What were your thoughts? Go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. If you haven't, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that is on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And we have a sister podcast called You Can't Do That Anymore, another movie podcast that talks about classic films like Back to the Future or Weird Science or Fight Club and discusses some of the things that those films did, that you couldn't do today. Uh, and we kind of break down with guests all over the place. So, like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.